Are you going to be 80 years old and still selling houses to clients that are needing you to buy and sell, and yet you're only doing it because you need to survive? You don't have the money. Your Social Security is not enough. You didn't invest. You didn't plan. I get it. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm almost 75 years old and I'm wondering the same thing. I have an excuse. Hold, please. Anyway, if you like this, please subscribe below. Let's talk about this because there are options. And thank God I got options so that I won't be 80 years old still selling houses, believe me. However, I probably will still be doing business because what I am doing, I love. So let's talk about it. So the other day, another agent needed me to help her out and show a house. And so I said, sure, I'll go help you. And I met the buyers out there because the agent couldn't come. Well, it turns out the agent could have come, but the buyers didn't want to impose on her. And so we're talking about their agent a little bit. It came up and they go, well, she's 80 years old. And I go, oh, I feel the pain of that. It's being close to it. Anyway, they said, we didn't want to impose. She's done a lot of deals with us before. She's been great. And through the years, she's helped us all kinds of ways. However, she's down in Charlotte. This is up at the lake. We didn't want to put her through that. And I thought, well, that was nice of you. And I love your loyalty to your agent. I don't know that it was the best decision for you for buying a $1.5 million house. However, I like you guys a lot because you did that for her. And as someone who could have been in that situation. So anyway, it got me thinking. It got me thinking because when I started my career in real estate, I was a month short of 56 years old. And I didn't know only one person in the state. I was changing careers. I'd done financial planning, which was helpful. My parents and all my family had been in real estate all my life. So I was surrounded by real estate concepts of it. My grandfather was a commercial builder, so was my father. My mother did real estate, but after I had moved away from her, and she was very successful at it. And all I saw was she worked her tail off night and day and never had a break. And I thought, I never want to be a realtor. I didn't think I'd like that. And you do. She also had her license till she was 82 years old. She hated giving that up because she was so proud of accomplishing the broker status. So, anyway, that's not where I wanted to be. So, I saw myself because in 2006, the market was climbing, and my financial planning background said something's up. Nothing makes sense about this. I could have bought a home and I was dead broke. I could have bought $1 million home because everybody just lied on their applications. Well, that's not my style because I do have integrity. And also, how was it going to make the payment? So that didn't work for me. But anyway, people were doing it. And I was studying that because I had my spreadsheet out. I was analyzing this new market because that is something that you need to do. If you're going to work something, you better get to know your product. And I intended to be a waterfront specialist. And this is a man made lake versus I'm from Michigan versus natural made lake by God. And so I wanted to learn the rules and I was studying it like crazy. And nothing made sense because property values would go up like $10,000 a month. And I'm like, what? How is this happening? And then the buyers were scrambling to buy up these homes way over inflated prices. And I said, it's just not right. And my daughter was a mortgage broker at the time. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense, Cal. And she goes, I know. And come to find out that there was a whole bunch of fraud all behind it. And that's why the whole economy crashed during that time. And when it did, I saw that, I was going to have to regroup. So I did. I regrouped and I did expired and I worked short sales and actually did really well in that period of time because there were people losing their homes right and left with foreclosures and bankruptcies happening right and left. That people were starting to get more real about the value of their home. And so when I would go with my business partner, knock on doors and let them see what was actually going, and they were typically, we were the second or third agent that had listed their home. And by then they were exhausted and they just needed to sell it. And they were bringing money to the table. It was ugly. But I did well in there because I studied my market. I paid attention to it. And so actually, my business partner and I, because I evolved getting one, we actually thrived during those bad years and really built a nice business. We outgrew the companies we were with. And so then my partner decided she also wanted to go on another path. Everything all ended up perfect. It was all fine and dandy. And I ended up coming to EXP without knowing a single thing about the company. I had was at Keller Williams at the time. My business partnership had closed down, and my mother was ill, and I needed to help her. So I thought I would join a team, which was LePage Johnson. It was a great decision. And I joined that team primarily because they were a very high quality team. They did lots of volume. Their marketing was exceptional. They were high tech, and I loved them. Well, 2 weeks later, they said we're going to EXP. Well, I'd never heard of it, and I just said, "Oh well, okay, fine." Well, that's where my life changed as far as my financial future. That was a turning point in my business and in my true picture of where my finances were going to be, that could change me not putting signs in at 80 years old. Because quite honestly, I saw that happening clear as a bell. Because during those years of, even though my business was doing good, it took a while to get it to do good. And in the interim, I was just hanging on by my fingertips and behind with the IRS. It was a mess. And so now when you're doing good, all you're doing is playing catch up to try and get better. And that's what I was doing. I was struggling. But when I came to EXP, there were a lot of things that were very interesting. One, remember I mentioned financial planning. Well, I was securities licensed before, and but not very talented at buying and selling stocks. I didn't really like that piece of it. But they had here a stock with EXP. And at that time, it was an over the counter stock, not even on the NASDAQ. And it was going for like $2.80 a share. And I thought, they said you could buy the stock from 5% of your commission. You could buy the stock. And at that time, it was a 20% discount because the company was so new. It only had 2,300 agents in it. I said, I'm willing to do this because it was also liquid. And I thought, if I had an emergency, even though I'm trying to save for, so I'm not in that situation at 80, if I had an emergency, I could dip into that, you have emergencies in real estate when you're struggling. You just do. And so that became a lifesaver and a game changer for me because now I started to build some real security that I'd never had. And they awarded me stock. I earned stock by bringing people over. And that was the other piece. They had a thing called rev share where I could build a residual income again for my future, my legacy potential. And that was really big because it was based on a network marketing model of how they did it with 7 levels and bringing people over. And so I studied that. Again, I studied it and I thought, shoot, all these things with, also they had collaboration, which other companies did not have. They had collaboration, they had tools, they had high tech tools. And when COVID hit, we already were in the metaverse and we were ahead of every other company because we could still do business because we did it in the cloud. Man, I was just aligned with the right company for my future. And I just saw a hope that I never saw before. I really didn't know how I was going to survive my older years. I didn't. I saw that sign in the yard at 80 years old. I saw someone being really polite and letting me have a commission. That's not what I wanted. I wanted dignity and I wanted a legacy. I wanted my kids to be proud of me and not where I was a burden to them. And this changed everything. This changed everything because then I started building up that stock and I'm bringing agents over and I'm talking to people and they're coming over. And there was a great guy that I brought over, John Padone. Man, I love that guy. And he came over. He didn't get it at all in the beginning. That rascal, he just treated it like any other business. He didn't take advantage. I don't know if he took advantage of the stock. Yeah, he did. He did take advantage of the stock. But he was a Mike Ferry patriot in a sense. Man, he did everything Mike Ferry told him to do. And he had another coach that he was paying a fortune to. And he followed that path. And he was a brilliant realtor, doing great, really piling up. And then he said, I'm going to go back to KW. I said, why? And he goes, well, they're offering me all this stuff. And I said, okay, well, you never dove into EXP, so you never got any of the benefits. It's no different than if you just go over there to KW. I said, but there's a cost. And I said, I'll love you either way, buddy. I said, however, I want you to pay attention when you go back over there and see what you see. And they're going to give you all this stuff. You're going to have to sign a letter where you agree that if they're paying for your space for a year, if you left early, you're going to owe that money. And they're offering you all these different incentives. There's a price to that, John. Pay attention to what it is because you're a sharp businessman. And so he was over there and he noticed the building was empty. Hardly anybody was there anymore because COVID had changed everything. People work from their homes. He said, I was going to have to pay all that back. He goes, so I said, I'm not going. And I ended up recruiting the woman who was recruiting me, and she's coming over to join EXP. I said, well, now we're talking, you rascal. Now it makes sense. And he brought over that woman who brought over like 17 people, and his organization started to grow, my organization started to grow, we all started getting checks, she got checks that she wasn't getting, and life suddenly got great. And John, he just took off, and he was recruiting people like crazy and selling high levels of homes at the same time, because it isn't one or the other, you can do both, and he did both. And it took him a while to figure it out because he was a little too in your face in the beginning. But here's what happened. A year ago in December, John died. He had a stroke. He was 48 years old. Broke all our hearts. And his wife didn't work. And he had a teenage daughter, young teenage daughter, I think 13. And anyway, EXP provides an incredible legacy feature. And I don't know how many other agents have been able to take advantage of this. The company's been around a little over 15 years now. I've been with it a little over 7. And the deal was she would get her real estate license, and she didn't have to sell real estate. She could be a referral agent if she wanted to be, or she could be a full-time agent. Didn't matter. She would then get John's whole organization would come underneath her, and she would get the residual income. I thought just going forward, but that's not what happened. So her estate was all messed up. Things were in probate for forever. The insurance company was taking forever to pay. They had just bought, they were in process of building a brand new home, and it wasn't complete when he died. And it was just a mess for her. Well, she's from Brazil, and she tried to get her North Carolina license, and it was a tough class. She failed it twice. She ended up going over to South Carolina, and where she passed, which was great because, again, she wasn't planning on necessarily selling, although she is now because things have changed. And so what EXP did next was they gave her a check for $60,000, which was all John's rev share that he would have made in those months from the time that he died till she got her license. That's legacy. That's legacy. I could just cry over this. I just love it so much. I love because it changed her life. It changed her perspective. I mean, is she loyal to EXP already? She already liked it just because John liked it so much. But when she got that first check, and then her next check was $5,000 because of all the people that she had in that organization. And she knows that I work with them and I help nurture them. I keep them going because they're part of my organization too. And so now I was out to dinner the other night, and she said, I want to get my North Carolina license. And there's a lot of people from Brazil that are moving to the area, and I want to reach out to them. And I said, I will help you. I went on ChatGPT, I love it, that moment while we were sitting right there. And I said, you are an expert in North Carolina population. You know all the different designations of where people are. And I'm looking for people in Brazil. I want every aspect where groups gather. They're from Brazil, and they're in the Charlotte metro area that I can come join, I can be involved with. Anything you can tell me about Brazil in the Charlotte metro area. It gave me a laundry list. I sent that over to her, and I said, that's our starting point, girl. So you start joining these groups, you start getting connected, because she can also do business in Brazil. She can refer business in Brazil because we're a global company. You see how I won't be 80 years old putting signs in the yard? I too, because John was part of my organization. He helped build my organization, and I nurture his. And I have residual income. I have stocks. I have collaboration. I have a global group that's in my personal business, even though I'm on a team. That's what it can do. So if you don't have an end game, or you're scared about it, or you're just hoping it'll work out, that those rentals will work out or whatever, I'm just encouraging, do a business strategy call with me. Are you kidding? Find out about it. Let all prejudice of what you've ever heard about EXP go, and do a real straightforward Is this possible for me so that you're not putting signs in the yard at 80 years old? Because this takes so much off your plate and it's fun. So I'm encouraging you to have questions below, book a strategy call with me, reach out, subscribe, let's talk. I don't want to be 80 doing that, and I'm not going to be. Let's talk soon.